What's going on, my beautiful people? Welcome back to STR News and Digest. It's been a minute. I went live last week, but it was impromptu. We just wanted to test out the system. We got a new system. I'm in a new office. So right now, one quick second. It looks like, Lorena, it looks like one of the Instagram is not working. I don't know, which is mine, I think. If you can check the QR code on it, because it's not on. It looks like only Haas. Actually, Facebook and the other one, none of them are connected.
Yeah, I'm going to look at it. Okay.
Okay. All right, guys. Here's what I want to do. We're going to be going live again. I'm going to be doing this STR News and Digest every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Or at least I'm going to try to be as punctual as possible. And here's my promise to you. If you subscribe to the channel, my promise to you is to try to be as consistent as possible with these STR News and Digest. We're going to go over some of the latest news if there's anything to talk about in terms of news. If not, we're going to talk about the industry in general. Now, keep in mind that my business is in the South Florida area, right? We're in South Florida. We are in Colombia and Spain and Portugal, but I have a very small footprint in Europe. Ever since they passed these STR regulations, I exited a lot of the properties, a lot of stuff that I was doing in for example, Madrid, Barcelona, etc. I exited those regions. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because this business is very regional, meaning it is what works in South Florida may not work in New York. What works in New York may not work in Chicago. So some of the stuff that I talk about may be specific to my region, but I'll try to be as you know, when that's the case, I'll try to let you know, hey, this is more what's working here. So it may not work where you're at, but nonetheless, let's have a conversation. Let's discuss the industry. Let's learn, right? Let's learn from each other. It's important that we start to do that. So right now, let me give you what the agenda is for today. Let me bring this up. Boom, boom, boom. Number one, we're going to talk about the state of my business, right? 2026, there's going to be a lot of changes, and I'm going to explain why I am innovating and changing the way I've been doing business. One of the things that I learned early on, and I say this a lot, so if you watch me, if you are a long-term subscriber, this is not going to be new to you, but I've been saying this a lot, right? In business and in general, if you're not growing, if you're not innovating, if you're not adapting, you won't be around for long. So because of that, and because we're exiting 2025, which for the short-term rental industry wasn't the best year. It wasn't a horrible year, but it wasn't what we're accustomed to. Because of that, I'm changing gears, right? We're going to try to innovate. We're going to be adding on some new tech stacks to our business, and we're going to be focusing on a different type of short-term rental. Not that we're going to change anything in terms of what we're currently doing. Let me backtrack. We're going to be focusing on acquisitions, but the acquisitions is not what we're normally used to acquiring. So in the past, I was heavily focused on residential properties. That's not going to be my primary focus going forward. Are we still going to get residential properties? Yes, we will. But it's not going to be something that I'm going to be really heavily focused on. Secondly, and this has been after a lot of consideration on my part. If you guys know, I am part of the PMI franchise, but that is going to be coming to an end. I've been with the franchise for 10 years, right? But I feel that if in order for me to grow, I can't be tied down to the franchise model anymore, especially since my primary focus is not going to be on acquiring residential properties unless they're going to be part of a package. Now, I'm going to explain all that I'm talking about as we go along, but but we're going to be doing a shift on that. But let me continue what's going to be on the agenda. So we're going to talk about the state of our business, the plans for 2026. I'm going to talk about some growth strategies that we're going to implement that may help you implement, that you can implement into your business plan. I'm going to be talking about my affiliate program. We'll talk about that in this STR News and Digest. Then industry-wise, we're going to talk about what's going on with OTAs and how OTAs, depending on how you read the data, may be giving you some information, or you may be reading that information incorrectly. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's happening right now as we speak, some of the storms that are happening throughout our country, which is causing havoc in the travel industry. I mean, for example, 10,000 plus flights have been canceled in the last couple of days because of weather issues. We're going to talk about airline bookings and how they're rebounding from 2025. Again, some good signs, but you really need to know what you're looking at and how you're reading the data. But without further ado, let me share my screen. I want to talk about the state of my business. And if you are aware, or you may or may not be aware, we heavily shifted in Q4 of 2025. And I'll talk some of the stuff that we did, but I want to share my screen. Let me see because it's been a minute. I want to see if I can remember. Here it is. If I can remember how to share my screen. And let's go to my analytics. All right, so this is for the month of December. These are my numbers for the month of December. A couple of things I want to touch on here. Now, let me just recap, because like I mentioned, it's been a minute since I've done an STR News and Digest. So going into 2025, we entered 2025 with over 153 properties under management. Now, that includes our co-hosting properties, right? If you're not aware what co-hosting is, it's basically I assist short-term rental operators manage their guest relations and help them with strategies in marketing and help get their properties booked. So as a co-host, and it's not what you'll see like on Airbnb as a co-host for Airbnb, similar to that, but with us is a little bit more detail in the sense that we really help market the property. I really consider ourselves like another OTA, right? Another online travel agency to book your property. So if you are a host and you need help managing or help managing your business or help with growing your business, then that's what we do with the co-hosting aspect of it. Meaning you're the boots on the ground. You're going to continue to do operations on your side, but we'll handle the sales, right? And the marketing aspect of it. And again, we saw a lot of success in that model. And that's one of the things that we're going to double down going into 2026. So we're going to really double down in the co-hosting aspect, right? Next, if we look at, and we did that in Q4 of 2025, right? So going into Q4 of 2025, we drastically got rid of what I call our non-performing properties. So we went from over 100 and something properties to literally down to 59 properties. We're currently managing locally 59 properties. And we're going to we might bring that number down a little bit more, not much more, so that we can concentrate on the properties that are actually producing. And then more so, we're going to be focusing on what I'm about to talk about after we go over on our analytics. So, guys, and before I forget, let me just make sure I'm doing this correctly. Yeah. So, and before I forget, if there's any questions, list them in the comments. Lorena will pass them to me. If there's something urgent, she'll bring it up. If not, we're going to answer questions towards the end. Now, I'm not going to go over what hour in this live. And the reason I'm not going over an hour in this live is because if you're not aware, I started and created another channel, YouTube channel, completely unrelated to this. It's more related to e-bikes and the hustle of e-bikes. So if you're interested, subscribe to that channel. And then we're going to be switching to a live every Wednesday as well. But at 7 p.m., we're going to be going live on that channel. But going back to this channel, let's go over the analytics so you can see, and I'll talk about some of the strategies that I did. Let me go here so I can see them. Okay, so going into February, as you can see, this is from the same period last year. Even though entering 2026, we have a lot less properties under management, we are actually bringing in 7% more revenue than we did in 2025, the same period in 2025, right? We also saw an increase in the nights, in our average daily rate. It's a 10% increase in our average daily rate. And RevPAR, now RevPAR is unrelated to us, right? If you're not aware what RevPAR is what the average daily rate is for similar houses within a certain radius of your property, right? That's what RevPAR. In fact, I'll read it directly from here. RevPAR, aka revenue per available room, represents the revenue you would get if your property were booked at 100%. It is calculated by multiplying the average daily rate by occupancy rate or by dividing the rental revenues by the numbers of available nights. So we are up on that aspect as well, even though our nights booked, again, we have less properties, so we have less nights booked, and our occupancy rate is lower, right? All our revenue numbers are higher, which is the most important component, right? I said this before and I'll say it again. It's all about maximizing revenue with the customer you currently have, right? You can have 1,000 properties, but if they're not occupied, it's meaningless. You're actually losing money if they're not occupied. Versus you can have 100 properties, and if those 100 properties are maximized, or the revenues are maximized, then you're better off having 100 versus 1,000. Hope that makes sense, right? But I bring these numbers up. Oh, let me go over again. These are where the revenue source is coming from. When you look at Airbnb is still half. For the month of February, we're going into the month of February, half of my revenue is coming from Airbnb. Hence why I have a love-hate relationship with Airbnb. Then our website, which is here, we're number 2. Again, we want that number to be as high as possible. So this is Hostfully. This is the current PMS system that we're using. It is our number 2 revenue source. I actually want to flip that. I want that to be the red you see on Airbnb. And I want Airbnb to be, I actually prefer Airbnb to be down here because I really have, like I mentioned, I really don't like the Airbnb platform. I don't like what they're doing to host. There's a lot that I dislike with Airbnb, but because they're still my number 1 revenue source, I have to, like I say all the time, I have to bend over backwards and kiss their ass because I need them, right? Then we have Booking, and then we have Verbal, and then we have all other platforms, which is what this represents, all other platforms, right? And there's a lot of other platforms, and I wish those other platforms would increase. But anyway, having said that, that's the state of our business. And here's what we did to get here, right? What we focused on in Q4 was, and I said this a million times, and I'm going to say it again. What our primary focus during this time, let me stop showing my screen so I don't get distracted real quick. Boom. Where is it at? Stop sharing screen. Okay. What we were heavily focused on was on understanding where our revenue is coming from, meaning our guests, and heavily marketing or retargeting our past guests to increase our direct bookings and or once we get that reservation, maximizing the revenue we get from that specific guest. So there's a lot that is encompasses that. I don't have a lot of time. I don't have the time to go in depth in that, but understanding that marketing is the most important component, and this is the number one thing that we focused in 2025. And I am tripling, quadrupling down on marketing in 2026. So if, and I'm sure if you followed me before, you've heard this, you've heard me talk about marketing. If you are a short-term rental operator, I'm telling you, people, stop relying on OTAs and really double down on marketing. If you need help with marketing, you can hire our marketing company, the Dream Media team, or at the very least, buy our ebook, because I'm telling you, it's going to pay itself tenfold. There's a lot of information there that's easily applicable today to help you increase your revenue. Now, that's what we focused on. Now let's talk about acquisitions, right? Specifically, what we're going to be trying to acquire in 2025. As I've kind of touched on, right now, specifically in the areas that I'm working on, the South Florida area, which includes from West Palm all the way to Miami, we're not going to be marketing to residential properties. Now, obviously, if you own a residential property and you want us to manage that property, or if you're looking into investing in a short-term rental, by all means, give us a call. We're not turning down the business, but we're not going to market for that business, meaning our acquisition is not, our marketing dollars is not going to go to acquire more residential properties. Here's what we're looking for. If you own a commercial property, right, 5 units or more, that's our focus, right? Because we want to convert, especially if, let's say, for example, you own a 10-unit building, or you own you're a mom and pop operator of a boutique hotel. Oh, damn it. Of a boutique hotel or a resort, something to that effect. That's who we're going to be targeting, or you're the people we're going to be targeting. You're who we want as a customer, because I think that is the future of this industry. We're always going to have residential properties. They're always going to be there. But as of this recording, there's too many residential properties, right? The industry is oversaturated. Although, here's the beauty about it, and I predicted it. It happened, and it's continued to happen. Those that have been around for a while, if you recall, I talked about all the bandwagon people. I said all those people that were jumping on the bandwagon when STR or short-term rental was hot, I said it, and it came true, that they were going to be the first one to jump off the bandwagon. Why? Because they got in late, right? They bought expensive properties. They overpaid for these expensive properties. And today, because of the oversaturation and because of the stabilization of the industry, right? The short-term rental industry has been stabilized. We're not seeing these crazy growths as we saw for years, right? Those people aren't making money and they're bailing out. And more so because we had clients like this, right? Clients that I told them from the beginning, if you invest in a short-term rental or in real estate in general, investing in one property is not going to make you rich, right? One property is not going to make you rich. In fact, I said it before, it is a long-term gain. Any investment, I don't care what it is, you should be investing not for today, but for tomorrow, long-term. It drives me insane when I get a client that buys a property and a year later they want to sell because they feel that, it's not making enough money. I won't say what I really want to say, but that is very short-sighted. Anyway, let me continue, right? So we're going to be focused very heavily on trying to get these commercial properties and these unique properties. I talked a lot about my vineyard. My vineyard is finally complete. we're up and running. If you go to my website, you'll have a chance to look at the vineyard, what we did with the vineyard. I mean, we did a lot, right? We converted a barn. It came out beautiful. In fact, let me share. I want to show you the pictures. I don't think a lot of you have actually seen. Let me go to my website real quick. Why am I having a hard time typing? One of the things that I will tell you as you get older, seeing small print gets difficult. There it is. All right, let me share my screen. All right, so I have currently we have 2 properties listed, which is the main house, and this is the barn. But I just want to show you the barn. I won't show you the main house. I just want to show you the barn. Now, it's winter, right? So you see a lot of brown because it's winter. But we went live on this a lot later than I wanted to. But we're going to be adding more pictures in the spring, especially the spring, because the grapes vines are blossoming. If you're not aware, I planted over 200 and something fruit trees. We created a beautiful orchard, and I want to specifically talk about these pictures here. I don't know if you can see that on this on the monitor. Let me see if I can actually show you this. Can you see this? No, you're only seeing the main page. Let me show. Maybe I have to share the other screen, which kind of sucks. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to. I don't think I can scroll down to see this real quick. Let's see. Oh, yeah, you could. All right, great. All right. So let's see if it clicks to my pictures. Actually, it didn't. So let me go. Oh, it did. It did. Okay. So this was a utility barn that we use, to store farm equipment and etc. I decided to convert this into a living space, extremely private. It's wooded all the way around. This is the barn there. Now, this area here, I don't know if you can see to the right of the barn. I'm not sure if you can see this, but this that I'm trying to circle, that is where the caretaker of the property lives. That's a little cottage that we built for him. He will be, in essence, your butler and your concierge, your all-in-one person. He takes care of the property. He'll show you around. But these are the grapes. All this open area is where we planted the fruits. These are our trails, right? So we created trails for either hiking, mountain biking, ATVs. You can use this or all these. We build over 4.5 miles of trails inside here that are marked. So you'll have the ability to hike, mountain bike in here and extremely private. So now let me show you inside. This is the bedroom. You have a queen bed. You have these 2 dressers. They're actually what we called our closets. Um, this is the living area downstairs, the bedrooms upstairs, full kitchen. It's AC'd, nice bathrooms. These are more pictures of the exterior, but this is the bathroom. We made it as comfortable as possible. Oh, there is a washer and dryer. You have an outdoor area. We added satellites for those that have to be connected, can be connected. But I'm very satisfied the way it came out. If you look towards the left here that I'm showing you, that is a deck that we're going to be setting up a geodome there. So, but right now that'll be a deck. And for those that are staying here, if you want to do like outdoor dining, this is where we're going to set up. And our caretaker will be serving dinner here. Obviously, that'll be at an extra cost, but we can make this. My idea of building this is for just a getaway, right? A romantic getaway where you and a loved one can go there, taste some of our wines, spend 2 or 3 days away from everything, because this is very, very, very rural. But there's a lot of activities, right? We have bikes, we have archers, bow and arrow, axe throwing. There's a lot of wildlife that you get to see. I mean, I love it there. We'll see how it pans out. But this is the type of properties and focus that we're going to be on. I talked about Timbercraft, tiny homes before. We are partnering up with them, and we're in the process of now acquiring a location in North Georgia, and we're going to build some tiny houses there, some cottages, and do a couples resort there. But that's what's going to be our focus for 2026. Got big plans for 2026. Super happy about that. And I hope you guys join us for this journey that like I said, that I'm super happy about. Let me stop. I did stop sharing my screen. All right, let's move on to STR News. Boom, 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 boom. Or am I? Boom. Okay, one more thing I want to talk about before I continue, and that's our strategy for growth. As I mentioned, there's 3 pillars for growth, right? That we're going to be focusing on, right? Diversification's 1, brand and trust is 2, and efficiency and margin protection. Let's talk about diversity, right? Again, we're not going to be relying on a single channel. I need to really rely on ourselves. More direct bookings, more partnerships with other short-term rental operators. I just talked about Timbercraft. They have Highland Cottages. We're creating a partnership with them. If you're out there and you're watching this and you're a short-term rental operator and you want to partner with us, reach out to me, man. I have a strategy in which we can all win and win big. Using each other's resources. It's definitely going to be a win-win for everyone. But the first diversification is going to be huge for me in 2026. Second is that brand and trust, right? People do business with people they know and people they trust. So education, a lot more content creation. We partnered, and this is part of our affiliate program, with Haas Premium Services, right? Haas Premium Services is another property management company that were focused on long-term property management, and we partnered with them to add a pillar for short-term rentals. So I'm working a lot with them. You're going to see me on their social media channel, right? Haas Premium Services. You'll see me a lot on their channel, right? Because we created a partnership, and that type of partnership and the first diversifications, what I want to do with you if you are a short-term rental operator. And then the last thing, which is also just as important as all three of the other two I just mentioned, is efficiency and margin protection. What do I mean by that? Revenue is great, but being profitable is king. I love that. There's a lot of people or a lot of companies that generate millions of dollars, but they're bleeding money, right? It does you no good to do that. Just like personally, right? I say this a lot. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep and what you do with the money that you keep, right? That's how I became wealthy, right? I understood that concept as a young Marine, as a young 18-year-old Marine. I knew that I wasn't making a lot of money, but I knew there was resources available to me that I can take advantage of and not have to spend the money that I have, so I can take what I have to invest. I knew that buying real estate, right, and not spending money on stupid things like cars, expensive clothes, expensive vacations. I knew that if I was disciplined and invested my money, that when I get older, that I will have the ability to take those expensive vacations, buy the fancy car, buy the nice house, but have those items paid for by my investments, not by my W-2 job. So again, as a business, that's what we're going to be focusing on as well, because business people forget that. And I got to tell you, in 2025, our company kind of forgot that. We forgot that we needed to be wise on what we're spending on, making sure we're reinvesting in the business and growing the business, right? So anyway, let me go on to two. I've already talked about the weather. If you're not, if you're up north and your flight has been canceled, this is for you, right? If you are renting a short-term rental property, there's a clause that says that short-term rental operators, because the incidents happen through Mother Nature, that you're not entitled to a refund, right? But as a short-term rental operator and as a person that travels all the time, I understand that sucks, right? Here's what we're doing with our guests. If their flight is canceled for whatever reason, and if we can either extend their stay, or if they're flexible with their stay, then we're going to do everything in our powers to make sure that they're going to be able to stay. But if they can't, they just have to cancel. Even though if they're coming from another OTA, that even though they can't get a refund because the OTA won't allow it, we will give you that credit, meaning you will have the opportunity to come back and stay at the property at a later date when you can come back, right? Now, if it's a direct booking, I have full control. And we will definitely give you a refund if you can prove to us that your flight was canceled. So if you're watching this and you're not booked with us, but you book a property with somebody else, or you're going someplace else, reach out directly to the operator and see if you can work out some type of deal with them. Because if you go to Airbnb, they're not going to give you your money. If you go to Booking, they're not going to give you your money. So reach out to the host, see if you can get at least a credit. If they're not willing to give you a full refund, at least give you a credit and rebook at a later date. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is on the OTA side and the data. I talked about this a lot. You guys really need to find out what data points you want to focus on and make sure that data point is reliable. In the past, I can tell you a lot of people, including pricing software like Price Labs, like AirDNA, they have used the profits and the data taken from, let's say, Airbnb, let's say Booking and Verbal, right? I personally have never used that data because that data, one of the things that people need to understand, an OTA, which is an online travel agency, Airbnb is considered an OTA. they're not in the same business as I am, right? They're a technology company. You know, they are like they're not operating an actual short-term rental. I'm the operator, right? They're a technology company. So if that company is growing, it doesn't necessarily mean that the short-term rental industry is growing. That's not what that means. It just means that more people are booking that property, or more people are signing up to list their properties on the platform. In addition to that, I've talked about this before, Airbnb and a lot of these other companies are expanding their services, right? They have what's called services, and they have experiences, right? Airbnb is trying to generate more revenue using their most valuable resource, which is the customer. I said this on my other channel, on my What Hustle channel, and I'll repeat it here. One of the reasons why companies like Uber, Grubhub, what's the other one? DoorDash, Airbnb, Booking. One of the reasons why these companies have a strong hold in their specific industry is because they hold the data and the most valuable aspect of any business. They control the customer. This is why I've said this a million times. We want direct bookings so that we control the customer, right? So I have a love-hate relationship with Airbnb, and if you look at it, they're 50% of my revenue. Why? They have the freaking customer, right? Restaurants are dependent on DoorDash and Uber Eats. Why? Because DoorDash and Uber Eats holds the customer. So I'm mentioning that because when you look at the data, if you see Airbnb come out and say their profit margins have increased, that doesn't necessarily mean that your profit margins are going to increase. In fact, oftentimes it has nothing to do with your profit margins. So don't look at that data. One of the data that we use is TSA. I look at TSA all the time because they tell me how many people are flying into Fort Lauderdale, for example, right? I need to know that. I need to know, are the numbers up or are they down, right? Those are the data. That's the type of data you want to really look at. I think a lot of people make the mistake of looking at data from an OTA standpoint, and I think that's a mistake. Anyway, let me see if there's anything else I want to talk about. One last thing I'm going to talk about, and that is, hosting strategies that are trending. I said this before, but having a consistent theme will greatly help you across the board of the OTAs, right? This is one of the reasons why we're focusing on these unique stays, because we can create a theme behind that unique stay. Very difficult to create a unique experience on a average 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, right? You really need to be very creative with that 3-bedroom, 2-bath house to make it unique. If you just furnish something and put it on Airbnb, that's not a unique stay. That's very difficult to have high margins of profitability. So understand that, right? There's a company, and I'm going to forget the name of it. There's this guy that built a cabin in Tennessee. I hope I can find this real quick. He built a cabin in Tennessee. I think I found it. Oh, damn it. No, that's not it. Anyway, he built a unique cabin in Tennessee. It's one cabin, but that cabin, if my numbers are correct, generates $125,000 a year, that one cabin. That's more money than some hotels in that area. But why? Number one, marketing. That guy did a phenomenal job marketing that specific cabin. And because it's unique, it has a viral component to it. You can post that on social media and gets picked up quickly because it's a very unique stay. So I mentioned boutique hotels. That's really the trend as well, right? Why? Because you can create a unique stay in a boutique hotel. My vineyard, it's unique, right? In Colombia, I'll go back because it's not as unique anymore. But geodomes, when geodomes first came out, holy smokes, man! If you had one, you were making money hand over fist, right? Because extremely unique, beautiful. You can create a nice environment in a geodome. They do really good. The glass houses, I don't know if you, it's not that glass, the mirror houses. That company also has done very well because those that buy them, put them on their property do well because they're unique. You can market that very easily. So that's what's going to be trending in 2026, or at least that's my belief. So if you guys are looking to continue to grow and innovate, that's the direction I would go. Now, that's all I have for now. Lorena, do we have any questions?
Yes. Give me 1 second. This is one of them. How does the short-term rental market look for 2026?
Okay. If you're talking about in general, it's going to be very specific. It's going to be determined on where you're at. Last week's STR News Digest, I talked about some of the hot areas and some not so hot areas, right? If you are in the Southwest, and I can't remember the numbers right now. If you are in the Southwest area of the United States, you're doing okay. If you're in the Northeast of the U.S., you're doing horrible, right? So it just depends where you are. So if I recommend that, depending on where you are, look at the data, check to see your travel trends, and see where you're at. There's going to be, in 2026, it's going to be a mixed bag. There's going to be some people that are going to do really, really well, and some people not so much. Next question. Only got 5 more minutes.
Yes, we have the last one. When they saw the video, the picture that you saw showed the vineyard, they said, like, when will the vineyard dome be ready?
That's a great question, and it should have been ready a long time ago. But unfortunately, I've been, for those that don't know, I became a grandfather, right? So I'm a brand new grandfather. I had a lot on my plate, continue to have a lot on my plate. We completely renovated our house. There's a lot of construction projects. Right now, under contract, I have two properties that are under contract. It's just been super busy. And in order to put up that geodome, I have to have a team. It's a team that knows how to put the stuff together. So it's going to be a minute. I don't want to give a time frame because I have no idea. And I'm being honest, I have no idea when I'm going to get a team there to actually put it up. But it'll be before the summer, but I don't know exactly when.
Okay. There are like 2 questions.
Okay. Well, guys, I appreciate you guys for being on. Love you guys. And don't forget, mark your calendar every Wednesday at 6 p.m. We'll be going live. Love you guys. See you in the next one.